Hey everyone, welcome to Sportsbook Review. It's a massive week. It's the home of the winning picks, and it's week 13 of the NFL. Where have them 12 weeks gone? As you can see, there's no Jimmy this week. He's off to get a little bit of sun on his back. Maybe a little bit of plastic surgery. He'll come back looking great. Off a 7-0. 7-0, all of you that kept faith with him. You were rewarded. You were absolutely rewarded. I'm going to be joined by Kappa and at Donnie Rightside VP, two of the masters of the game. Now, if you're thinking an Englishman can't talk about NFL, give me 60 minutes and I'll prove you right. But we've got so many games to go through this weekend, and on the back of the Ravens putting up a masterful performance last night, and also we'll go with the 49ers who let the Green Bay off a bye come into their backyard. They slapped them on the backside and sent them home. We have two elite sides in the AFC and the NFC, and they meet very, very soon, and we're going to talk about it. Could it be a prelude to the Super Bowl? First of all, let's say hello to the boys. Obviously, in the chat, we've got plenty of love going on for Jimmy, and we send him our best and his family. But we've got right side Donnie. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Excited. Look, I'm coming on here. I maybe think we're getting a breakdown of maybe Manchester United or whatever it is, but we are going to bring you in, Flash. I love the fact you're the host today. Me and the Whale, we're ready to go. It's the Audible on Tuesday Sportsbook Review. What's better than this, Flash?
Especially coming off a 5-1, Donnie. I bet there's been a different caliber of food on your plate since Monday and Sunday night. Wow, coming off 6-1, you boys are feasting.
Yes, Flash. Thank you for the awesome intro. And hey, it's Thanksgiving week. I got to imagine, people think that the Pilgrims, that landed in Massachusetts, they spoke with English accents. They were English. They were British. So it's only appropriate we have you on for Thanksgiving week. Hopefully, you're looking forward to the extra dose of football on the Thanksgiving Thursday this week. And we're going to get it all. A packed episode of the Audible with all of our takes earlier in the week this week. So this is going to be fantastic, and I hope you guys are all doing well.
And the big thing is the NFL is gigantic in the UK and Europe, and it's called, listen, you can't have world champions at the end of a Super Bowl and not expect the world to fall in love with this game. It's firmly in my heart, and we're going to kick off early on. I'm going to go straight to Donnie, and it's the Bears -3. Opened at a pick'em, Donnie, at the Lions, totals 38.5. That opened at 41, so it's a big move to the Bears and the under.
And I agree with it, because now you're getting word out here, Flash, that you got Jeff Driscoll, the quarterback for the Detroit Lions, possibly with a bad hamstring injury, which would leave David Blau from Purdue, who's never taken a snap in the NFL, going up against that defense. But I got to say, again, it falls into it, because, Flash, you've watched a lot of these shows, you've done NFL. You know me. I'm not the biggest proponent of backing a team on the road on a Thursday. Now, the interesting part about this is even more of a crutch, because you're not playing at 8 o'clock at night. You're playing at 12:30 in the afternoon. But keep in mind also, short travel distance between Chicago and Detroit, that could play into it. But the one thing holding me back, because I agree, as I said, with the line movement going up to 3, but now you're asking the Chicago Bears to win by more than 3, which theoretically means 4 points, up to 7 points in this game. Last time out, hey, look, 20-13 victory for the Chicago Bears. That was Jeff Driscoll's first start in the NFL. The one thing I look back at is 230 yards is what the Detroit defense held Chicago down. It's another one of those issues where it's not so much that should you be able to beat Detroit easily, it's the Chicago Bears on offense that always have me struggling. Flash, I'm looking more into that 38.5 and taking the under in this football game than I am a side here early in the week.
Wow, under 38.5 when 41 was available. It's not often you chase it down like that. Wow, I look at this game and I think to myself, well, Mitch Trubisky, he actually threw a completion.
He threw some of the worst passes I've seen all season, though, too, man. Mitch Trubisky does not have the goods. I don't really understand what the plan is with Chicago at this point. Clearly, Matt Nagy has been struggling to craft an offense to take advantage of Mitch Trubisky's strengths. Now, maybe that's by design. Maybe he's trying to prove a point to ownership that this is not the guy. You need to move on from this guy in the offseason. You need to bring in a guy like Jameis Winston, or somebody who's going to be on the recycle pile to challenge Trubisky. But whatever the case is, in this standalone game, in this kind of highlight spot, I would expect that the Bears cover this number still, even at 3. Whether it's Driscoll, whether it's David Blau, this is a horrific matchup for a beaten and battered Detroit Lions team. If we get an honest effort out of anyone, it would be the wide receiving core, and they're going up against a stout pass defense for the Chicago Bears that should be able to keep them somewhat limited. This is a snoozer. I agree with if you bet the under early, if you got an under 40 or 41, you're in great shape. If you bet the Bears early and you're sitting under the key number of 3, you're in great shape. But I think this is a pretty clear and obvious spot where the Bears get a comfortable win. We'll say something like 24-6.
I couldn't agree more. I look at the Lions and I think Matt Patricia finds a way to get beat even when they should be winning. So, yeah, can't have the Lions on my mind. Chicago, at least they've got something to rely on with that above average D, even though we thought it would be unbelievable at the start of the season. Let's move on. It's to 2 solid lines. Bills +7. Worst 7.5. That's as best you're going to get at the Cowboys. Totals 45. These are 2 solid lines. Donnie.
You know what's interesting about this game, Flash, when you take a look, you're saying to yourself, all right, Dallas 6-5, they always play home on Thanksgiving. We get it. But you got an 8-3 football team coming to town, getting close to a touchdown. That's always the way I would like to lean early. But again, it's Thursday, and it's going to be a nice advantage there for the home team because they don't have that, quick rush turnaround. They're at home for this game. But I got to tell you, didn't like what I saw out of Dallas, and especially when you're looking at a football game where they played basically in primetime, 4 o'clock, out cold in the rain. Now you got to fly back to Dallas, get ready for a short week. No real key injuries on Dallas' side of the football outside of Leighton Vander Esch with Sean Lee comes in. They played a decent football game on defense, but that's a game, Flash, last week that you want to build off of. If you said it again, it's going to be rainy. It's going to be windy. Wouldn't you want the team with the dominant offensive line, big-time running back, and a quarterback that is athletic and can move around the pocket? And Dallas still couldn't get it done. And the thing that always comes into it is questionable coaching once again for the Cowboys in that game. It seems like it comes up each and every week. But taking a look at this game with the Buffalo Bills, getting a couple wins under the belt. They're really going to level up in competition in this football game. But I got to tell you here, Flash, early in the week, leaning towards that 6.5 points. I think Dallas is overall the better football team. I love Dallas's offense. And again, outside of windy conditions and rainy conditions, which you don't have when you play down in Jerry World in that dome. Looking at the total in this football game, 45, I think it's about right. But I'm leaning towards the points in this game. I think Buffalo can hang around, play some defense, make some plays against that Dallas defense. But I do think Dallas is the better team and should win. But I am leaning towards taking the points here early in the week with the Buffalo Bills, Flash.
Well, you think 7's too much for the Bills with that D? You looked what Belichick did last week. He closed down the run. He said, go on then, Dak. You throw it. We'll go man to man and see what you've got. And he came up wanting.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a really good game plan last week that you had because Bill Belichick basically said, hey, it's rainy, it's windy, we're used to this. I'm going to sit on this football and make you make the mistake. Even on special teams, when you talk about missed field goals, you're talking about not fielding kickoffs properly in that football game, and then you had the always questionable tripping penalties that they had. I think it's too many points in this football game. I do think Dallas is the side here, but I'm not going to be able to lay 6.5 and feel comfortable with the Flash in this game.
Well, plenty 7 points across the board. You think that a touchdown's too much for Dallas to lay?
I actually don't. I think I'm capping this one 28-20. I still think Dak Prescott is playing at a level where he's at the top tier across all of NFL quarterbacks right now. I don't love the laying all of these points in a game where you have the Bills that are going to be competitive. They're giving you different wrinkles on offense. They're giving you, a little bit of an unconventional look the way that they're running their offense. They're going for it a lot on 4th down, which is obviously something that I find, that warms my heart. But all that said, that leads me to look for an over here. I think 45 points is too low. I think that you're going to have a pretty decent competition here, back and forth here, score for score, especially early in this game. I would expect Dallas to get to 28 pretty comfortably. I think this is where this is a level up in competition for the Bills is really testing their defense with the top tier NFL offense in a pretty controlled, warm environment. I think if you have an average day of special teams for the Cowboys against the Patriots, they get that win. If you're a better coach, you have your team prepared for the conditions. It looked like the Cowboys were kind of, a little bit, struck by unprepared for the cold and wet conditions. And I think on a short week in a primetime spot, you get a more honest effort out of the Cowboys offensively. They get into the high 20s, low 30s, and then we're just looking for 20 points or so from the Buffalo Bills to get this over to the window.
Seems a safe play. Well, we've got plenty love in the chat for the Bills. Pie Guy 9871. Dallas is beat up. Jukes. BSG, Bills cover. We got people on the Bills money line. Pie Guy 9871. Geez, he's beating up on the Cowboys. And then also they're going to go back to the same old story. Can you trust Dak? And can you trust Garrett? Most of the time, it's no. The only one you can trust is Zeke. Let's move on. This is a cracking game, this. Saints -7 opened up 6.5. 5 dimes and bookmaker go 109 on the 6 and the hook. At the Falcons, the total's 48.5. And Heritage are hanging their hat on their own at 105. I like the Saints here, Donnie. After what I saw from the Falcons last week, I actually went with them. I thought that they were back. I thought they were the real deal. They're a hard team to cap.
No, you're right. And you're looking at this football game again. Thursday night team on the road. This one will be at night, one of those NFL swing games where we always get to see Dallas. We always get to see Detroit. But in this game, you think New Orleans got their mojo back. But when you take a look at that football game, I mean, that last drive could have been a little bit more convincing by the Carolina Panthers in a dome, missing like a 25, 26-yard field goal, which really would have put the pressure on New Orleans. You want to say they're back because they played well the week previous in Tampa Bay. And then you take a look at Atlanta. They had those 2 games back-to-back. But we thought coming into this game, you know what? Which Atlanta Falcons team are we really going to get? And you actually got the Falcons team of the first half of the season as opposed to the previous few games. Touchdown, I mean, 5 opens up at 5 or 6.5, still staying at 6.5 in that range. Over under at 48. Julio Jones banged up. Looks like he's going to go in this game. I'll tell you, these are tough games on this Thursday card on Thanksgiving to lean towards because I don't think the Atlanta Falcons can win this football game. I think the New Orleans Saints are the better side. So if I'm going to take this football game, I still would be leaning towards New Orleans in this game, winning by margin of 7 points or more. I think they're overall the better football team. I think they're going to play better defense. I think Drew Brees, again, going outdoors is always going to hamper him, but he's going to another dome. So I'm going to lean towards New Orleans in this game. I think they can win by 7. I think the real Atlanta showed back up last week, Flash, and I think they get the winning cover for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, well, I look at Atlanta and I think to myself, you are the biggest homers maybe outside of the Colts, and now you're going to come in up against the Saints. And the Saints last week absolutely cruising against the Panthers, took their foot off the gas, and then only just got over the line. Are you happy to lay the 7? No. This is a spooky one. If the only thing going for the Saints motivationally is they can clinch the NFC South with a win. I don't think that they match up well with this new constructed defense for the Falcons at all. The Falcons came out of their bye, played the Saints, and just utterly shut them out. And a lot of that was because they healed up some of their issues with some of the short, medium, the way that they were covering the passing game in that part of the field. That's really the only place right now where Drew Brees can attack you. That's really the only way that they can hurt you. And Drew Brees and the Saints are coming in with loads of injuries. Now, not only have you lost your all-pro guard, Andres Pete, you've lost now Teron Armstead, your tackle. Grady Jarrett blew up your offensive line in the first meeting, completely disrupted your offense. You only scored 9 points against this team. If Drew Brees could throw effectively down the field 20 yards throw some precision passes, if his arm was live at all, then I would be laying the points here with the Saints in a heartbeat. But I think this matches up pretty well for the Falcons to come out and put up another solid defensive effort and keep the Saints in check offensively, which means that this entire game comes down to how many points can the Saints limit the Falcons to. And while I think that the Saints D is better than what we saw last week against the Panthers, I still am concerned about Lattimore not being 100%. And then some of the injuries that have befallen that unit are a little spooky. So I think the Saints get a win here, but I think it's a pretty tight contest. I'm capping this one about 23-20 to the Saints. And I think that the Falcons and the under are pretty decent looks, although I'm probably going to stay away from this one. Yeah, I mean, it looks a bigger under when you're looking at 48 and a hook and you're looking around the 43. It gives you a bit of a margin. I just can't believe the way that Jameis Winston did as he liked through 2 interceptions, invited the Falcons to go away. And then after that, he took them to school, he took their packed lunch and he ate it in front of them. It was embarrassing from the Falcons. And I'm talking from the heart. But I'm also talking from the pocket because I thought the Falcons were okay this weekend and I had a piece of them and I had to sit next to Jimmy, who was on a 7-0 stretch, and he was more than gracious in victory, let's say. Okay, I'm going in with this one. It's the Packers versus the Giants. Packers -6. Was 7.5, so we're leaning. The money's coming for the Giants. Total's 45.5, open 46, so it's quite solid around the mid-40s. But the Packers -6. I've already ticked that one, Donnie.
No, and look, I can't blame you on that. What do you get out of the Giants at this point here? I mean, they are getting a little bit healthier, but it seems like the results certainly don't match up. And some of those keys that we also like, when I like taking a football team that was embarrassed a little bit, and it's actually been a little bit of a retread here when you take a look at the Green Bay Packers, got embarrassed against the Chargers, came back in a decent effort against the Carolina Panthers, 24-16, did come down to a goal line stand, but they were able to pull that out, and then they go step up in competition again and play in California, which I guess is the kryptonite for the Green Bay Packers, and they got absolutely destroyed. You're going to get a little bit of a time off this weekend because you're going to step down in competition. You're going to have time to throw the ball for Aaron Rodgers. You're going to have time to run the football. The defense won't be pressed because Danny Dimes, is going to put the ball on the carpet at least 1, 2, maybe 3 times in the game. Probably look at the Giants turnovers. If they had a total over 2.5, I would look towards the over in this football game. Now, the one interesting thing also, we're talking about playing in the Meadowlands with the Green Bay Packers going on the road this weekend. Last week was so topsy-turvy in weather early in the week. This one showing up about 38 to 39 degrees, maybe some rain in the forecast. And as you said, Flash, opening up in that 6.5, 7.5 range if we looked offshore, now staying at 6.5. I think that is a fair price. I'm trying to build a way early in the week to take the over in this football game because I do think the Green Bay Packers are still a little bit susceptible in defense. I think if you come in healthy, because there's still a couple guys with some injuries to worry about on the Giants front, tight end Evan Ingram, and also you have Golden Tate that I believe entered into concussion protocol. We'll see if he clears later in the week, but I think there's some opportunities to score because I do think Green Bay is going to score on this Giants team, and I think 45.5 is a little bit low, but I hasten to take that right away because I got burned last week on looking at some of these weather conditions that didn't pan out in my direction, but I do lean towards an over in this game early, Flash.
Well, we look at this game, and I think it's all about the Giants' D. Can they stop the free-throwing Packers?
Boy, is that a tough call. I mean, the Packers were so underwhelming against the Niners on Sunday Night Football. It's tough to really think that they're going to come in and just be able to chuck it at will. I would guess that they're going to lean more on their running attack, even though there's a lot of opportunity to be made passing the ball down the field against the Giants. I'm going to stay away from this one because I think this comes down a lot to game state. We've seen when the Packers have gone up against inferior competition this season, they've done a really nice job of scripting a first 15 set of plays that gets them the lead, that makes them competitive in the game. If they're playing from ahead against this Giants team, then they can play a little bit of ball control. They can run the ball a little bit more. They're going to still score some field goals and, probably get to about 20, 24 points. But they may keep Danny Dimes off the field. They may keep keep their defense from getting exposed. If the Giants have a chance to cover this number, and if this is going over the total, I think it's dependent upon the Giants getting a fast start, getting the ball first, getting an early touchdown, and really setting the tone in the game. Because of that uncertainty, I'm probably staying off of this one. But I don't hate laying the points, especially at 6 when we were looking ahead at 7.5, 8 in this spot.
Yeah, I looked at this game and thought, Packers, off the back of that embarrassment, they absolutely got schooled by the 49ers. But there again, the 49ers in the NFC are starting to look like the real deal. I look at the Packers and say, you flat track bullies. Well, who would you like to play? They go into the Giants. Secondary, non-existent. Help yourself. There's the points. Here's a game. Redskins -10. Right across the board. It's solid. At Panthers, and a total is 40, Donnie.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, we're watching Washington last week, and it's all like, hey, look, Washington got their first win. Now it looks like they're going to getting about double digits in this football game. And then I still look to say what they're doing on offense. They won the football game again, 19-16. Hey, it looks great. Scored a couple. No, they didn't score any offensive touchdowns in this football game. So now we're going to go on the road and expect Washington to duplicate their performance of like the past 6 weeks. Where look, San Francisco 9-0, Minnesota 19-9, 24-9, Buffalo Jets 34-17, and then Detroit 19-16. There's not a lot to like out of this offense, and we're talking about taking selfies when we have quarterback ratings of like 55 or 40 out of Dwayne Haskins. Now he's going on the road. In this game, it's still a lot of points when you look at the Panthers, but I think the Panthers are going to be able to score on Washington's defense. Vice versa, I don't trust Washington Flash against anybody's defense, particularly if you're going to put them in a game where they're going to be losing. You saw last week they hang around, they make just enough plays to squeak it out, throw for like 150 yards. I don't think that's going to be the case this weekend. I think if you get Allen a clean pocket for Carolina, he's going to be able to make some plays against that Washington secondary. I'm not so hopeful for Washington side. If you can get under double digits in this game, I will be leaning Carolina here, Flash.
Wow, when you go for the Panthers, I looked at them last week. They were dead and buried. They showed spirit. They started to enjoy themselves. and they look dangerous.
Yeah, that was their Super Bowl, though. You know, like they knew that they were kind of on borrowed time as far as the playoff picture goes. That was the game that they absolutely had to win to get back into it. They come up just short with some tough missed kicks. I think this sets up now as a letdown spot for the Panthers, and I'm doing some soul searching right now to know if I am comfortable being on the side of Bill Callahan and Dwayne Haskins, who've been very uninspiring to this point in the season. The fact that they got the win against the Lions last week, I want to hang that more on the Lions than I even want to give the Redskins credit. I'm probably going to end up staying off of this game, but if you break down the side in total, the implied score is about 25-15. 25 feels like an awful lot of points for the Panthers to score in their current situation with Kyle Allen and his ability to pass, especially if there's any wind or weather in the forecast. And then 15 for the Redskins seems achievable. They may get there with field goals. They may get there with one special teams touchdown or one big play to Terry McLaurin. But I think that the Redskins can stay inside the 10, but I'm probably not going to end up getting involved.
Yeah, it certainly looks like a game to just put a line through. Don't even bother, because the next one, every man and his dog is going to be interested. It's NFC number 1, 49ers, +6. Seems a bit disrespectful to me, especially when it was 5 and a hook in a place. At the Ravens, the total's 46. We've got AFC's top dogs against the NFC's top dogs, Donnie.
I mean, the Ravens looked sensational last night. And, you try to take some odds and ends and you say, because I liked the total last night and it got there, thank goodness, just because it was the Ravens. But now we're going back and you got to take a snapshot of what the season looked like, because beginning in the early part of the season, through games 5, 6, and 7, Ravens weren't all that overwhelming on defense. Make a couple trades. I mean, obviously Marcus Peters was huge, but also getting Jimmy Smith healthy back in that secondary. This is now a viable, functioning defense that can probably finish the season after starting a little bit lower, back into the top 10. If we look at just like the last 3 to 4 weeks, one of the top defenses in the NFL, and going against an offensive machine right now, which is exciting to watch. But the one thing San Francisco can do is they can really get after the passer. Now, also in this game, let's not forget last night, one of the things that we're celebrating, there's 5 touchdown passes. They looked fantastic with the Ravens. But Skura going down, the all-pro center for the Ravens, that's going to be key in this game, because there's going to be a lot of heat up the middle, and certainly from that front 7 that's super athletic for the 49ers. But I got to tell you, the lines open up, flash 4.5, 5.5. Now we're seeing some 6s. Everything in my power wants to say, like, dude, that's the San Francisco 49ers. That's their number. They're going to bring some defense. They're going to play hard. They have a really creative offensive mind. They have a quarterback that's not shy like Jared Goff was last night. But getting back to it, Flash, this team is annihilating everything in their path and are going to be at home this weekend. I don't know if this is one I just might sit back and say, you know what, I'm going to enjoy this without a wager on the football game. I have early in the week, it could go both ways, but betting against the Ravens right now, my goodness. But then if you flip it over to 49ers and say, well, yeah, they struggle a little bit with rushing quarterbacks, but they're still winning those football games. If their kicker is not a rookie and blows one, they beat Seattle. Maybe we're looking at a completely different picture with an unbeaten 49ers team coming in to play Baltimore. What a game. I can't get a clear feel early in the week here, Flash.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with not getting a clear feel when we've got 2 outstanding sides. Well, this game, I'm thinking the 49ers, they may well look after the 6. You've got Baltimore on your sleeve. In fact, you've got them on both sleeves.
I love the Ravens. Love the Ravens. And honestly, this feels short for them. Let's look at common opponents. The Niners, they almost beat the Seahawks, but that was a dogfight. Meanwhile, the Ravens went into the Seahawks' home and utterly took them apart. The Ravens had their way with the Cardinals. The Niners had to beat them down and fight them off twice. And then just recently, the Niners only scored 20 points against the Rams. And the Ravens could have scored 50 if they felt like it last night. Would they go 6 straight drives scoring a touchdown?
Mm-hmm.
So To me, at least, just looking at common opponents, I'm seeing a pretty compelling case that the Ravens are a lot better than the Niners. I break it down a little bit more. I feel like I have undersold how good the coverage has been, the pass coverage, especially for the 49ers defense. They were spectacular against the Packers on Sunday Night Football. And if they're making tight windows for Lamar Jackson to throw into, he's going to have a little bit more difficulty succeeding as a passer, which means it's going to put a little bit more pressure on the run game. The front seven for the Niners has speed. They have bodies. They can definitely do a more formidable job of stopping the run than anything we saw from the Rams last night. And then you flip the script, and I think in general, the Baltimore Ravens defense has come on strong and now is one of the better units in the entire NFL, playing at home with the crowd behind them. This sets up really well for an under, in my opinion. I think the Ravens likely get the win by about 7 points, maybe by 10. But I think this thing comes in well under the total of 45. It won't be a surprise to me if the losing team in this one has something like, say, 17-ish points. I'm handicapping this one around 24-17, 27-17, something like that in favor of the Ravens. And I'm going to take under 45 as my play on this one. And, I think a lot of people are expecting this to be kind of, an exciting game that they're going to see a show. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if at the end of this one we're talking about how, okay, there's a defense that finally has figured out a way to put pressure on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and is holding them down into the 20s. Meanwhile, people are like, "Oh wow, we really have missed the boat here on one of the more elite defensive units in the NFL with the Ravens." So, give me the under 45 here, and let's see a good old fashioned defensive showdown.
So the World Kappa Kids inheritance is going on the unders.
I like it. This is of all the ones on the board, this is probably one that I'm the least confident in. So I don't know about inheritance, but but from the standpoint of I know I'm going to watch every single minute of this game, and I'd like to have a little staking interest. Give me the under.
No, I get that. And I think that will probably be the majority of the people who are interested in NFL, love NFL, and know nothing about NFL. I think there'll be new viewers just because of this game and the spot. You're going into the backyard of the Ravens. AFC, and obviously they're going head-to-head with the Patriots. But work that one out. We've got the Patriots that are stuttering every single game, and you've got the Ravens blowing everyone away. So for me, the Ravens are the real deal. It seems a shame we've got to go from the 49ers to the Ravens to the Titans. Plus 2.5 was free at the Colts, and the total's 43.5. And if you want to just glide over it, Donnie, then I don't mind.
Yeah, this is one of these that usually like Flash, right? Those home teams, Indianapolis always plays much better at home than they do on the road. Now a little bit handicapped. Obviously, Eric Ebron goes to IR, and also doesn't look like you might even get T.Y. Hilton in this football game. Still complaining about that calf injury. That doesn't set up well because, Flash, when we look at the Tennessee Titans, don't get confused with the Kurt Warner best show, greatest show on turf Rams, the way they're all of a sudden showing up. Look at last week, 42 points, 35 points, 20 points, 27, 23. It's an offensive smorgasbord now with the Tennessee Titans finally getting healthy on the offensive side of the football. They do lose Cameron Wake on defense to IR, but the defense is performing well. This is a hot football team coming in. I got to tell you, Indianapolis Colts have been playing some pretty good defense. They have a sensational coaching staff. Jacoby Brissett's going to make enough plays, but I have to tell you, I think the Tennessee Titans are the more talented football team in this game. Now, the one thing always holding you back is how much the Colts absolutely dominate the Tennessee Titans in their career. You try to take that bias out. Look, we missed off on the 3 early in the week, so you're getting a 2.5. So it's decided, do you think the Titans can actually go on the road and win this football game? I've seen it time and time again. The home team here, the Colts, stand up and win these type of games. But if you're going to tell me no T.Y. Hilton, no Eric Ebron, I don't know where those explosive plays are coming from. And Tannehill is playing extremely well for the Titans. I lean on the points early in the week. If T.Y. Hilton's out, this might be an official play for me on the Titans, getting the win on the road for something they never do in beating the Colts.
Yeah, you're a brave man. I mean, if I didn't know you better, I'd think you've been on the sauce all night coming in here and telling me the Titans have won. They're going to win on the road against the biggest homers in the NFL with the Colts. And then I look and I think, wow, 43.5 is the total at the moment, but Bookmaker have gone out on their own at 44.5. Are we looking at the over for 43.5? It seems low.
I agree with you on that. I think the over is the side. If any total is in play, it's the over, and I would actually even single Titans team total over. If that's going to be around 20.5, 21, I think they get that number the way that they're playing with Ryan Tannehill right now, clicking on defense. You look at the way that the game script went for the Colts when they were playing against the Texans, and they were very, very conservative in their offense. They were doing a lot of running plays. They were running the ball down, running the clock out and trying to keep away from Deshaun Watson, because I think they knew that the limitations and the injuries that have befallen their pass defense make them extremely vulnerable. I think in the first matchup, the Titans would have gone over 20 easily if they had Ryan Fitzpatrick in instead of Marcus Mariota. I'm sorry, Ryan Tannehill in instead of Marcus Mariota. Probably Ryan Fitzpatrick too. Marcus Mariota has been one of the worst quarterbacks we've seen in the NFL this year. But now with Tannehill clicking and with the late season surge that seems like an annual tradition here with Derrick Henry running over linebackers and defensive backs late in the season, I think this does set up pretty well for a nice offensive showing out of the Titans, and I'm probably going to be backing Titans team total over. We'll call it 20.5.
I think 20.5 is quite civil, because I think that both of these teams, they'll be free flowing. They'll just go out, enjoy themselves. You go, we go. Let's not get too roughed up. Our season's already done and dusted. Now, here's a side that are absolutely, Donnie, they're playing Russian roulette on the Dallas Cowboys game. It's the Eagles, opened up 7.5, narrow size 10 with Bovada. It's generally 9.5 at the Dolphins. The total's 45, has been 46.5. So we're looking at the unders. The unders are starting to get a bit of juice, but the Eagles are throwing everything into getting everyone fit to make sure that they're all guns firing down the stretch.
Game has a lot of feel to me, Flash. Last week, we all came on the show and we rang the Miami Dolphins up the flagpole saying, you know what, this is a get-right game for the Cleveland Browns, because when you face one of the worst offensive teams in the NFL combined with one of the worst defensive teams in the NFL, you sort of get that breather, because we talked about the gauntlet that the Cleveland Browns ran through until they got a breather with the Miami Dolphins. It's the same thing against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, how great is your offense supposed to look when you play the Chicago Bears, basically banged up and injured? You go on a bye week, you get even more injured, and you place one of the statistical best defenses of all time coming off a bye for yourself. Yes, but also the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick off a bye. You didn't look that great in that football game. You got even more injured the following week going up against the Seattle Seahawks, who, again, the Seahawks were off their own bye in that game. Now you get the Miami Dolphins. You get them in sun. You get to warm up down there, Flash, 81, 82 degrees. We were down there in August, and we saw exactly how that stadium's going to be, full of Eagle fans, not many Dolphins fans. This is a get-right game for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I hasten to say I'm ready to lay, double digits here on the road or back and over, because in order to beat up a bad football team, you need Odell Beckham to go deep. You need Jarvis Landry to be wide open. You need a quarterback that can deliver the football and is having some time to actually deliver it. The Eagles are horrendous at wide receiver. Hopefully Alshon Jeffrey comes back. And I'm asking, like, Nelson Aguilar, one of the worst wide receivers in the NFL, still would be an upgrade over what we ran out onto the field last week for the Eagles. Is Jordan Howard ever going to come back at running back? Are we going to lean on Jay Ajayi, Miles Sanders, and Boston Scott? The Eagles are going to win this football game, Flash, but I don't know if I can lay double digits. If they were healthy on offense, we'd be looking at yet another over. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to make some plays, but the Eagles, again, fully healthy on defense and playing extremely well over the past 3 weeks against the Bears, once they got healthy in the secondary, against Tom Brady and a struggling New England Patriots offense, and Russell Wilson last week. Eagles win this football game. Still hesitant to take them just yet, though, Flash.
I'm not surprised, but the big thing, I'm looking at them and I'm going, right, the Eagles are just making sure that they're going to be fit down the stretch. But
yes,
you've got Howard, you've got Aguilar, you've got Jeffrey. Just play them. Just get some sort of continuity. Let's get some completions, because it's all coming down to this Cowboys game, and they cannot afford to slip up. Well, you go as high as 10 with the Eagles over Miami.
I'm probably coming at this a different angle, but I think they do cover the 10. I personally think that the Eagles defense still hasn't quite caught up to how much better they're playing with some of their key pieces back in the secondary. I think this is an absolutely perfect matchup for the Eagles defensive line, their front seven, against a completely incapable offensive line for the Miami Dolphins. The over was a beautiful play last week when we were handicapping the Miami Dolphins versus the Browns. A lot of that was based on the fact that the Browns' entire pass rush was out with injuries and suspensions. And so they really weren't going to get a ton of pressure on Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was going to be able to make a little bit of magic, make a couple plays. You really only needed them to get to 13 or 17 points to get that overhaul. This sets up exactly the opposite. I feel like this Eagles defense can hold Miami to like 3 or 10 points. This is an under. I like Miami team total under. I like the full game under. I think that this sets up in a lot of ways where the Eagles took on the Jets earlier this season, and they were going up against a battered and beaten Jets team with Luke Falk at quarterback, and they held them to 3 points. That one was a no doubt under, even though the defense, I think, for the Eagles scored 2 touchdowns on their own in that game. I think you can afford to let Jeffrey and Howard rest another week. I think you can afford to let some of your pieces kind of get fully healthy for the stretch run, because I think you can win if you can just score 1 or 2 offensive touchdowns. I think you pick up a W down in Miami. I'm betting under 45 on this one. This is my favorite total on the card, and I don't think it's even close.
I've told a lot of people that you've schooled me throughout for the last few years, and I wrote, Eagles happy with the W. So we'll just copy and paste what you said there. Donnie, you'll be a happy man come Sunday night. But I write down, this is probably a Sunday morning play when we actually get the news coming through of who's going to actually play, because it is a massive under if there's still no wide receivers and there's still no Howard in the backfield. Probably one of my best looks going forward. The Bucks +1. The Sharps were on 3, and the Jags totals 48.5, and there's a slight move to the under from 49, Donnie.
You know what? I actually like the over in this football game. I think there's a decent shot at this because we're seeing a Jacksonville Jaguars defense flash that over the past couple of years, you leaned on that team. You leaned on a running game. You had Blake Bortles at quarterback, but it was fun. They made it all the way to the AFC title game. This is really a shell of that on defense. There's still a lot of players from that football team that are here, but obviously something's just not clicking. The one thing I think Nick Foles got into a little bit of a rhythm last week, even though they got blown out, I think the offense is going to be able to move the football, obviously, against a Tampa Bay defense, but vice versa. I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to move it as well. Now, looking at some of these early windy conditions here, 17, 18, 19 miles an hour, I'm going to keep an eye on that early in the week, but setting up to the high 40s, I think this game can creep into the 50s because I think Bruce Arians has this offense clicking. They'll be able to put up points, and I think vice versa, Nick Foles and that Jacksonville Jaguars offense should be able to strike as well. As looking at a game itself, kind of tough. I mean, -1, -1.5. Jacksonville should be able to win this game. But if anything, since Nick Foles especially got back in, I saw, Gardner Minshew was 4-4. Nick Foles stinks. Well, if you're giving up, 40 points close to a game on defense, I don't care what quarterback you have starting a quarterback. You're not going to win any of those football games. I do think that malaise on defense is going to continue, which Tampa Bay can exploit. I like the over here early in the week here, Flash, unless those windy conditions keep up down there in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend you keep your eyes peeled to weather.com because it's going to be massively important in this game when both sets of the attacking side of the field want to get the ball in the air. I look at the game and I go, Winston, he looked unbelievable the other day against the Falcons, but he could be the Jags' best form of offense as well, Wow.
You're absolutely right. You're right. I think that's a great call, and obviously Winston will throw 2 picks. It's just a matter of whether he throws them in the red zone and takes points off the board for the Bucks, or if he throws them in his own half and he sets the Jags up for easy points. That makes the total a very difficult handicap for me. And as far as the side goes, I would have expected the Bucks to be small favorites here as opposed to short dogs. And I'm surprised because I've seen a lot of players come in on the Bucks, but that number is staying put with the Jags as small favorites, which means there's some resistance out there. Someone has a bead, someone has a read, someone has an angle on Jaguars, and I'm not sure I can figure out what it is. When I look at the Jaguars, they are leaning heavily on their rushing attack. Leonard Fournette is going to have absolutely nowhere to go against this Bucks run defense, which is absolutely stellar. If you're going to attack and make the Bucks hurt, you're going to do it through the air. And I'm not sure we're seeing much chemistry at all from Nick Foles and his receiving core in a way that's going to really put scoreboard pressure on the Bucks. The Bucks, on the other hand, their strength is obviously through the passing game. They have a dynamic set of wide receivers with Evans and Godwin, and the Jags can defend the pass well, but they really only have one guy in AJ Bouye, who can really cover and take away that those tight create tight passing windows, which means whichever guy Bouye is not on, Winston should be able to read and find that guy and get the ball to him and let him make plays in the passing game. So I feel like this sets up well for the Bucs to get a win here. I feel like the over ought to be in play, but there's enough uncertainty with the way that Winston's turning the ball over at will this season that I'm going to stay away from this game.
Well, you've got a good feel there because we've got Clint Richardson saying the Bucs are now -1. We've got Pie Guy saying on my book, we've got Jags -1. The books have not got a clue. And come Sunday, it's eyes down and, well, they can have the -1. It'll end up being a pick'em. I quite like the scoring prowess of the Bucs, especially after they've just left their mark on my behind from the Falcons game last week. Now, Jets, and this is strange, I'm going to say this. The Jets are putting points up. The Jets are looking like a team. They look like they were going to be, or they wanted to look like they were going to be a team in August. It took them to the end of November and Thanksgiving. But Jets -3. Bovada still hanging with a 4 at the Bengals, and the total's 41, Donnie.
Break up the Jets, and I guess we can expect, another 34-point outcome, 34 points of Giants, 34 points for Washington, and 34 against the Oakland Raiders. You're not getting an upper echelon team. This isn't where you have to worry about, how are they going to perform against the San Francisco 49ers or the New England Patriots? This is another bottom 5 defense in the NFL. It looks like we're going to get some decent weather to start early in the week. It'll be in the high 30s, but lower wind conditions, and I think the Jets will be able to score in the offense. The thing I do like as well is the total in this football game. I was able to jump this line early in the week. Once we saw that they're going to make the quarterback change back from that disaster of Ryan Finley back to starters that were usually, the Red Rocket, as we like to say, for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now take a look at this game moving forward. Do I think the Jets could win? Absolutely they should win. But now we're getting those good vibes, 3 straight wins. You're waiting to say, are we going to see the Jets from early in the season resurface? I don't really know if Cincinnati can put that much pressure on them. Adam Gase is dialing up some pretty good plays. They dominated a pretty good football team last week in the Oakland Raiders. I don't think that's going to change in this game. Early week looking towards taking the Jets, even with Andy Dalton back in the lineup. But I think we're going to get some points in this game. As long as you don't get any crazy windy or rainy conditions, I think Cincinnati is going to be able to get close to 20 points in this game. And I think the Jets are going to get into the 20s in this football game, which sets that over the 40.5 mark here, Flash.
Well, we're looking at 41 as a total. It looks like the strongest over on the card.
Yeah, no disagreement. I think it's definitely the strongest over. If you got it early before the news, then you made a banger of a bet. Jets could get this by themselves. I do worry a little bit about the Jets defense is playing really, really spectacularly here, and Andy Dalton's been sitting on the shelf, cold, and now you're throwing him back into the mix, and who knows if he's going to have timing and chemistry with his wide receiving core. And I don't think you're going to see much of a ground game at all from Cincinnati here, because I love the way that the Jets run defense is playing right now. And really, the more I look at this and I see that number come down from 4.5 to 3.5 here with the news of the quarterback switch, I don't get it, man. This is the Jets. The Jets are playing like a top 6 team in the AFC right now. I don't think there's any question that if they had a little bit more they had a little cleaner of a start, if they beat the Bills, if they beat the Browns, if Sam Darnold doesn't get mono, I think you're talking about a team that's fighting for a playoff spot here instead of one that's way on the outside with the chance, the very tiny chance to win out and close the gap here. But this is a team that's legit, and this is a team that is going up against a complete and total joke of a franchise in Cincinnati that should beat them handily. I will lay the 3.5 here without really thinking twice about it. I think the Jets come away with another comfortable win. It wouldn't shock me at all if this looks awfully similar to the beatdowns we saw the Jets lay at the hands of the Redskins, at the hands of the Giants, and at the hands of the Raiders last week. This is a fourth win here where the Jets are streaking on their way to try to maybe possibly get the 6th seed. Who knows?
The problem I have now is if I say this too loud, the men in the white coats are going to come bursting through the door and I will be in a padded cell. I'm going to go with the Jets -3.5 on the road and over. Now I'm thinking to myself, well, And then I'm relying on Dalton to contribute on the scoreboard. But I've got to go with the Jets at -3.5. I went with them early on in the season thinking, okay, go on then. Put up or shut up. That was my first words in my first show with Jimmy. And they shut up. They have been nowhere near. And then in the last few weeks, they've done a Falcons on me. I'm now thinking, right, I'm going to go to the well. Please do not be dry. The Jets are definitely getting some of my hard-earned corn. Now, Browns, -2, was a pick'em. They're not having the Steelers, and the total's 40. They're edging with the under 39.5 in a place. It could be 39 across the boards come Sunday.
This is an interesting game, Flash, because not only do you have, 2 weeks ago, all the melee after the game and the words that were said or not said, you still have the suspensions lingering. Pouncey's going to be out for this one. James Conner's not going to play in this game. We'll see if Juju Smith-Schuster suits up, but I think you're getting an elevated Browns team after saying, look, we finally beat up Big Brother a couple weeks ago. We got really right against the Miami Dolphins. We're coming in here with a head of steam and a better football team, but look, this is an elite level defense, and as we said again, where you saw Cleveland with the struggles, it was against really good defense as well. Pittsburgh is a really good defense. Now, they're not going to get that much pushback from an offensive set from the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got Duck, Duck's going to start this week, which I know Whale Capper's happy about. Comes in last week's rescue because I was ready to write the obituary for Mike Tomlin last week if they're going to lose to the Cincinnati, Bengals on the road. But now you come back home. This is going to be an emotional environment. I do think the Cleveland Browns are a better overall football team talent-wise, starting with the quarterbacks, the running backs, and the wide receivers because of how much dinged-up injuries. And yes, you're starting a third-string quarterback for the Steelers, but the Steelers are at home. The crowd's going to be in a fever. If they're getting 2.5 points, and we'll see where if it swells to what it ends up, I might lean towards the Steelers, but I got to tell you, it's hard to watch their offense and say, I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. If Juju comes back, maybe that helps out. If their running game gets going, that might help them out a little bit. I think Cleveland's a more talented team here, but this is a tough one early in the week, leaning more under in this football game than I am over here so far early.
Under 40. It's gone to 39.5 in a place. It'll probably be at 39. I look at the positive, and it's Steelers at home. I don't care who the personnel on the roster. They're at home. They're always a threat. And then I look at the quarterback, and I was going to use the average of, we've lost Tom Brady on the show today, and now you've got Mason Rudolph. Now, I cannot have Mason Rudolph at any cost. And the Browns go into the Steelers and give up points and win. I'm putting a line through it. Well,
I've been close to putting a line through it, but I can't get over the fact that the Browns have so much more to offer offensively, from a health standpoint, from a weapon standpoint, from the confidence of your quarterback. All things really here point to the Browns even going up against a very tough Steelers defense on the road, hostile environment. Fans, like you mentioned, they'll be whipped up into a frenzy after what happened on Thursday Night Football 2 weeks ago. That's fresh in everyone's mind. But I still think that the overall threat of now you have two running backs you can trot out there. You have two wide receivers that can create separation. This is too much for the Steelers to keep up with from an offensive standpoint. Browns can get to 24 points. I don't think the Steelers can get to 20, even with the quarterback change. If this was a Mason Rudolph, now I'm talking about play of the season is Browns. Duck Hodges, a little bit more of an unknown, but I still think without Connor, without Schuster likely, that this is a really tough spot to put the kid in. And the quotes we're getting from Tomlin make it seem like they're going to roll out something extremely conservative. And I don't think that's going to be enough to go score for score, point for point with the Browns in this spot. I think the Browns are still alive for the playoffs, not unlike what we were just talking about with the Jets. I think we go Jets-Browns until they let us down here down the home stretch. And this is another cheap price to be getting for a team that's so many more weapons and so much better play of late.
Well, the Sharps certainly agree. It opened up a pick-em. It's now -2. Probably go towards 2.5, so it's a field goal game. I just don't see the Steelers scoring enough points, and that's why we're looking around the 39.5. But you've convinced me maybe just to erase that little bit of a line I've put through this game and go with the informed Browns. Odell Beckham Jr. finally getting a touchdown. And they say we're like London buses. You wait for one and two come along at the same time. So maybe we'll be looking forward to him celebrating and pretending he's had a 25 touchdown season after his second one in 2 weeks. Let's kick on, Donnie. We're going Rams -3 at the Cards. Total's 47.5. I look at the Rams and they were weak last night. They were weak.
Flash, 5 games. Let's just take a 5-game snapshot here for the Rams. Because last night I was right on the over, but wrong on the team total for the Rams, getting back all their guys healthy for once. When they had all 4 of their guys, meaning Gurley in the backfield and the 3 wide receivers healthy, they averaged 30 points a game. They were embarrassed last night. And even heading into the second half when the pressure was off and you're just looking to get some good mojo going towards the next weekend, put a couple good drives together, they couldn't even do that in this football game. So that scares me a little bit. But also, when you look at the games versus Atlanta, they put up 37 points versus Cincinnati, 24 points. Then they level up in competition on the defensive side of the football with a couple elite level defenses. Pittsburgh, 12 points. Chicago, 17 points. Baltimore, 6 points. I think, again, you get a little bit of a breather. One of those bottom 5, bottom 6 type defenses from the Arizona Cardinals. You're not going to have any windy conditions. It's going to be in a dome. And I do think the rested and ready Arizona Cardinals should be able to put up some points on the Los Angeles Rams, because if you have a mobile quarterback, you show you can score some points. Now, the Rams came into that football game versus the Baltimore Ravens in elite defense. Pro Football Focus had them as high as number 2 overall, and they got absolutely shattered. I think this is a bounce-back performance from a Rams perspective. You have all your guys back, as we said. You get another week. You're not going to be facing that marauding offense, even though Kyler Murray's going to make some plays for Arizona. 46s were on the board this morning, now back up to 47s. I think that high snap rate for the Arizona Cardinals should be able to push a little bit of the issue. I know Goff is bad. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in weeks. But look, you're facing 3 elite defenses. You're going to get a little bit of pressure off. Somebody's going to make some plays out of all these weapons the Rams have. I think both of these teams get into the 20s in this game, and I think they could push that over here, Flash.
I was a bit mixed up with this game, the game last night with the Ravens and the Rams. I started off, I went Ravens -3. Thank you very much. I'll tick that. Then I started thinking, well, the only thing that the Rams have got is their rush D. They sent a search party out for Aaron Donald. He's still not been seen. And I'm like, well, how can you then expect him to go into the Cards' backyard and give up points? I just cannot understand. And I don't care what you say, well, there's 2 lines going through this game. Line's 47.5, and the Rams are -3.
Me and Donnie are seeing eye to eye on this one. I'm gonna lay the points here. I think the Rams finally get right. They need this game badly. You have a team in the Cardinals which is coming off a bye. Potential that they lose a little bit of the mojo and the continuity that they had going into the bye. I like that the Rams are fully healthy. I like that you're going to be able to kind of match up a little bit better against a much softer defense. I want to hang a lot of what happened yesterday on the Ravens playing up more so than the Rams just falling apart. I thought that the Ravens defense really showed us more in that game than I would really point to Goff and point to the Rams offense and say something is fundamentally broken here that can't be fixed. I like the quotes that I heard from Sean McVay after the game. He was like, look, we're not going to let the Ravens beat us twice. A loss is it's one loss. We have to get right and get ready for this Arizona Cardinals game. It's a meaningful game for them. It's a team that they have owned since McVay has taken over as in charge of the Rams. So if you're getting a pretty cheap -3 here, I think you got to take it. And don't feel great about laying all these points on the road this week. But here we are. I've talked about the Browns. I've talked about the Jets. And now I've talked about the Rams. Three teams that I think can win by more than the short price that they're laying on the road. The Rams bounce back, Rams get right. And I like Donnie's look on the over too. I think over 47 is pretty favorable.
Wow, I look at the Jets, I look at the Browns, and I look at the Rams, and I think, you boys have just picked the ugly sister in the Rams. I cannot go near the Rams. The Rams were weak on their rush D. You got Goff, who couldn't find me in an open car park. I cannot have the Rams. Oh, listen, and the Cards come off a bye in their own backyard. Oh, no, and more no's. Chargers, -2.5. They were a pick'em. There's plenty of money. The Sharps have come in very, very early against the Broncos, and the total is a strong 38.5. And I expect a few will go under, Donnie.
You know what? It's a good pick by Flash. I'm leaning with you early in the week. I think this game is going to stay under the total just because, look, 345 yards passing you had last week with the Chargers. They should have won that football game if Phillip Rivers wasn't so horrendous. And that's going against a Kansas City Chiefs defense. You're really going to level up in competition when you're playing defensively because I think Denver is going to come to play. And Denver's offense really doesn't come to play all that much. And also, you have a banged-up offensive line for Denver. You have a really good defensive line that's going to be coming to town. Also, Derwin James possibly back also for the Los Angeles Chargers in this game. More than a side, do I think that the Chargers are a better team just because you sort of lean on and say, all right, I have a more established coaching staff at this point here that's been in charge for a while. I have a more established quarterback, although he can't seem like he can throw the ball 15 yards and has really been struggling, but I can lean on a better running game. I have some wide receivers that can make some plays, but they are banged up a little bit on the offensive line, meaning the Chargers. I just don't see many chunk explosion plays in this football game. Two defenses that can really get after the passer and two quarterbacks that aren't efficient actually pushing the football downfield and making the right play because Phillip Rivers can't seem to get out of his own way. I like the under more so than the side here early in the week, Flash.
Don't blame you, Donnie. Don't blame you. I look at the Broncos and think they're going to have to intercept in the red zone and pick six because they have got nothing. And the Chargers look strong, and I am leaning Chargers, just giving up the 2.5. If it goes any higher, then I may have to think about it. But I see it's one-way traffic. Well,
man, the Chargers always play so poorly against these Broncos. They never don't disappoint. And I love that they're getting Derwin James back. I love that they have kind of so many more weapons offensively, so much stronger defensively than the Broncos. But the fact that they're only 2.5-point favorites is spooky. And I watched enough tape on Phillip Rivers this season that I am not betting on him anymore to cover games. His arm looks dead. And you're going up against the Broncos team that has nothing left really to play for this season. So we might as well, get up for this game and beat the crap out of our hated rival Chargers. So this one was a stay away for me. And I think we've got a good feeling now that Brandon Allen is not the guy. I think we've got a good feeling now that, that the Broncos really, they need a lot really to come and be competitive in the NFL for next season. But this is a game I can't necessarily make another case here to take the road favorite. Although I think that's probably the right side. Under, sure, it makes sense to me. I don't think that this is going to be a shootout by any stretch of the imagination. I will say that the Chargers left a lot of points on the field against the Chiefs in that Mexico City game before their bye. It's possible that everything clicks for them and they're scoring touchdowns, not field goals, and it puts a little bit of pressure on that number. But the Broncos still have some pretty talented defensive players. This should be a competitive football game. And I would lean Chargers, lean under, but I'm going to stay away from this one.
Yeah, only the under for me. Don't want another road team. Listen, we're having such a good time. We're going to run out of time if we don't fly through these. So Patriots -3, worth 4 at the Texans. Total's 44.5, and it's not moving, Donnie.
You know what? This Houston game, I got to tell you right now, like usually you're going to enter this and be like, well, Bill O'Brien stinks and Bill Belichick's a great head coach. I understand that. But sooner or later, the luck is going to run out for the New England Patriots. When you see, all right, they're playing the Jets, the quarterback's seeing ghosts. They play the Cleveland Browns. They're heavy favorites in that game. Pouring rain, Cleveland hands them the football game. Then they play the Baltimore Ravens and get destroyed by a competent football game. Then they go to Philadelphia and play a team with one hand behind their back. And then they play the Dallas Cowboys and get them in the perfect situation where it's going to be muddy. It's obviously not muddy, but fast rain coming down. It's cold weather. You know the Cowboys are going to make the mistake with their head coach. Now you're going to go on the road in pristine environment with 3 healthy wide receivers for the Houston Texans and an athletic quarterback. There is going to be no escape clause here because Tom Brady's going to have to throw this team to victory, and I don't think he can do it. If you're going to get 3.5 early in the week, I like the Houston Texans. I'll keep it quick here, Flash.
Nice one, Donnie. And I liken this game well as the Patriots are going into battle with a spud gun well.
They are going in with a spud gun. I think this is an under. I like Donnie's breakdown of the Texans. I thought really hard about pulling the trigger on them. I kind of looked at this little stretch of the Patriots schedule, and I was like, Eagles, Cowboys, Texans, Chiefs. I'm going to fade the Patriots over that 4-game window because they're way overpriced in the market. I think the market is correcting a little bit. I think the fact that this is 3.5 and not 4.5 is telling you that. And I think that there is value on the Texans. I think Donnie made a smart play, but I think the under is a little bit of sharper angle here. I do still think that either way, when the Texans, if they're playing well, if they get a lead, if they're dictating this game, then they're going to lean heavily on their run game. They're going to be able to have alternate backs, get some fresh legs in there, keep away from Tom Brady, keep their defense on the field. I think if the Texans are competitive in this one, this comes in well under 45. Give me an under on Sunday Night Football.
Okay, and I certainly wouldn't put off anybody who fancies the Texans on the money line as well. This D from Foxborough cannot keep surviving and making sure that the Patriots end up with another W. Let's go to Monday night. I'm really looking forward to this game. The Vikings are +3 at the Seahawks. The total's 49. Best was 49.5. With Pinnacle are happy to go 48.5. Why, Donnie?
You know what? It's interesting. You take a look at this game because regardless of what defense you have out there, Seattle's going to be able to make some plays with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. But I'm looking towards Minnesota in this game, Flash, getting the 3 points coming off the bye. And it's going to come down to a couple simple things. If Jadeveon Clowney still has some problems during the week, that's going to lighten up that pass rush, which you saw if the Eagles had anybody out there. They beat the Seattle Seahawks by margin last week, but they didn't. You're going to get a different look. If Adam Thielen is healthy in this game, you match him up with Diggs, Thielen, and an incredible running back that you gave yet another week to get healthy in Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins playing good football. This, I think, is going to be a close football game, but I think the Minnesota Vikings have a legit shot to go on the road and beat Seattle if a couple things line up injury-wise for that. I'll keep it short. I like Minnesota early in the week here, Flash.
Yeah, not going against you. Well, make it 3 out of 3, please.
I see your points, but Russell Wilson is impossibly good in prime time. Impossibly good. I think this is an overlook. I think that the Seattle defense can be scored on. I agree that the Vikings get a couple touchdowns. I don't think that this is the kind of game that's field position, field goals. I think both teams can absolutely take advantage of their opponent's weaknesses on defense. People are kind of missing the fact that the Vikings defense stinks out loud in coverage. The pass defense, awful. I think that Russell Wilson is going to be able to find the end zone through the air. He was so close to hitting a couple of home runs against the Eagles. The Eagles secondary played up. They played pretty well in that game. I think this sets up really for a shootout on Monday Night Football. Another absolute classic barn burner, back and forth, touchdowns galore, and give me over 49 here.
Well, if you want the over, Pinnacle are hanging at 48.5. Get onto there, Go over to Sportsbook Review, look at all the odds, and there is a beaming light at 48.5 at Pinnacle that will not last long. Knock them over. First come, first served, get over to 48.5. You can see this going over 50. Okay, the Three Musketeers, thank you very much. I've been Flash. We've had Donnie, we've had Wildcapper. We've gone through the Thanksgiving week. Enjoy your turkey, and if you're vegetarian, plenty drink with that nut roast. Thanks for watching the Audible, and we'll see you next week. May all your bets be winners, and keep smiling. Thanks a lot.